Alright, welcome back. This is going to be chapter 3 of our baby journey. And if you haven't already, like and subscribe to the page. If you prefer to hear it on podcast, of course it is on Apple Play and Spotify. So if you haven't been caught up to speed on our journey thus far, of course go back and listen to chapter 1 and chapter 2. So, Chapter 3 is going to begin with, again, explaining to you guys that 4 years had passed. 4 years had passed and there was no positive pregnancy test, and just a whole lot of tears, at least for me. So, 4 years had passed, and almost to the day in November again, I happened to take a test. I woke up one morning and I was like, my, cycle should start any day now, but I've got these in here, which I had done periodically anyway. Anyone who's trying to conceive, you probably know kind of that addiction that you have to buying pregnancy tests just because you're so eager. And, I had that surprise 4 years previous, so I was like, maybe, I don't know. So I tested one morning. So I get up one morning, again, almost to the T. We had just either started Thanksgiving break or were coming out of it, just like 4 years previous. And sure enough, that morning, I had a positive pregnancy test. I could not believe it. It was very faint. And so much so that, again, I was at work, because now I remember it's starting to come back to me. We were on planning, and I decided to go on my planning and get another test, because I was like, I don't know about this. It's been 4 years and I've had nothing, and I've tried everything, and now all of a sudden an unmedicated cycle, a kind of unplanned cycle too, because again, it is so important to take a break, that we were in one of those modes where we were taking a break. So we were just kind of being spontaneous and just enjoying our marriage, or at least trying to enjoy our marriage without that stress. But it always somehow lived in the back of my mind. It always kind of festered there. But anyway, go get another test, and it is faint, but it is positive. So it's funny because my teacher who teaches right beside me, she's probably heard and seen it all from me, because she's right there, and I have to have like somebody right there to speak to and kind of lean on. And I asked her, I was like, do you see what I see? Because again, if you've been on this journey, at any point, they call it line eyes, and it's where you can kind of, and it is psychologically, if you think you see it, and it's something that you do want to see, you can trick your mind into seeing that is not there. Weird enough as it sounds, but very true. And then you've got indent lines, and so many testing threads I've seen and read. It's like, I don't know if this is right. I need one more set of eyes. So I race over to her room, and I'm like, look at this. Is it? It is. She's like, yeah, it is. You're not crazy. It is. I was like, oh my gosh. So we race up to my husband's room, because he also teaches same grade level, but different subjects, and we rarely ever see each other. But I race up to his room, and I'm just crying, and I have her video it, because I'm like, this is it. 4 years has passed, literally almost to the day. This has got to be it. This is it. So I call in, and at that time we had started to see someone again locally back in town at the office that I had previously started my care at. I decided to see a different physician though at this office, and someone who, when you meet these people, they are still people, and you want to make sure that the professional that you choose, fits kind of your vibe, if you will. And I felt like she really did. She looked at me with compassion for our journey, understanding, what we really wanted, and I just felt like we had a good connection. So I call her, and I'm like, hey, I just got a positive pregnancy test. What should I do? You know, what's my first steps here, considering all the time that had passed and considering our previous loss. So, of course, she's celebrating that with us, and she just says, come in for labs. Let's do your labs first and just see what your numbers look like, and we'll go from there, because it's already really, really early, really soon. I mean, about 4 weeks and some change. So that's what we did. Came in, I had my labs drawn, and I could not believe it, because if I back up 4 years previous, when I first started to miscarry, that time I was a stranger to it. It was all very foreign to me. So I went to the ER, and they had drawn labs, and my numbers were extremely low, like to the point of kind of like, are you sure? And this would hardly show up on a pregnancy test low, like in the 20s, maybe up to 50. I just remember it was really low. It wasn't in the hundreds. Fast forward now, where we were, 4 years had passed. She took the labs, contacted me, 521 HCG level. Oh my goodness, that's amazing news. You know, based on the previous history of the lab from the ER that time, my numbers had never been that high. So definitely worth celebrating. I felt fine. I felt normal and happy and just all of the things. So, I'm just anxious. I just knew, based on certain things you read and the physicians that tell you, once you get that 6-week mark and should have a viable heartbeat, or at least that gestational sac is forming and is visible on an ultrasound, that's a really good sign. You're progressing in the right direction. And once you hit that 6-week milestone, you should be okay. I mean, things happen. So many things happen. But it's at least one more kind of checkpoint to celebrate. So that's all I need. In my mind, I just need to make it to 6 weeks to feel okay about this, because I'm terrified. Every single day I'm terrified. Every time I go to the restroom, I'm terrified. Well, I am at school, and I start experiencing the most excruciating pain. I actually coached cheer for a little while too, and we had a game that evening. So I guess it started that evening then, because I remember trying to sit down at that game and being so uneasy and unsettled, and just this piercing pain shooting up all the way from my backside up to the point where I couldn't put any kind of pressure. And of course, I'm thinking, it's got to be gas. I want to write it off as gas. I want to write it off as an upset stomach. I'm early. I could be sick, nauseated. That's what I want to blame it on. Okay. So I'm like, I had a coach who I'd kind of adopted on as an assistant coach. Do you care to stay here with the girls tonight? I need to go home, at least lay down, try to get some rest or something. Hopefully this will just pass. Absolutely, go home. Come home. I'm a little sick from this feeling. Of course, it's nerves and it's the physical pain, but it's a lot of the nerves. And I finally just kind of sleep. I'm like, okay. Go to school the next day. It's one of those weird days. It was right before that break for Thanksgiving, and I still feel horrible. And then I start to really get upset. I've not been able to sleep this off. Why haven't I been able to sleep this off? Why is this still happening? Why is this here? Is everything okay? Please let everything be okay. And I just knew it wasn't. And I call in to the doctor's office. And I think I was avoiding that before because I just didn't want there to be anything wrong. But finally I'm like, I need help. Somebody needs to know that I'm feeling this way. So I call in, and at first, the physician is saying it is normal to have cramps. It is normal to even have period feeling cramps. It's normal. It could just be your uterus contracting, the implantation part. It could just be that. But I just had a feeling it wasn't. So anyway, I call back again because I'm like, okay, it's not going away. I think it's getting worse. I'm very uncomfortable. I know it's early. but can I please be seen by a doctor? So they schedule me that afternoon. My husband and I leave to go to that doctor's appointment. Again, it's very early. I might have been right at the 5-week mark, or actually I want to say it was like 4 weeks and 6 days or something. It's like right there. And I had never even really made it past 5 weeks before. So again, I'm just like, please, I want to make it to this checkpoint, please. So she sees us and she says, now, I'm going to give you an ultrasound today, but understand that there may be nothing on there right now, and that's nothing to be concerned about. You're just really early, and your HCG has to reach past like 1200 or maybe even 2000 to be able to see something viable, in your uterus. I understand that. I just would feel better if you could look and make sure. So we go in, and again, one of those traumatizing events, I can still see everything play out, in my mind. We lay down, I lay down, and she starts to do the exam. And again, when you're so early, it is a vaginal exam of the ultrasound, which is very uncomfortable when you're already in pain. And again, it's very traumatizing when you want to see healthy baby. That's all you want to see, and I would endure any pain if I knew that was the result. So she pulls it up on the screen, and again, what's wild is if you've ever had an ultrasound, good, bad, or indifferent, you see in there, and it just opens up, and there's this like little bit of a oval shape. It's not perfectly round. It's maybe even smushed down. Okay. So that's what she sees, and now I'm really hurting because they have to fish around in there, and they have to look at things, and they're trying to get measurements, and I know that they don't want to put you in pain, but it hurts. And she asks me, now, how far along are you supposed to be? And I'm like, well, this was my last cycle, and this is maybe where I'm at, but I've only had labs done. This is my first ultrasound. And she almost implied that maybe I was further along, and that now I know is strictly because it looked as though what was a gestational sac was larger, but it was in fact deflating. And so on the screen it just looked, I guess, further along than what it was. But that's only because it had started to deflate. Now, very confusing again because so many things have happened since then too. But we go in after she's done with that part of the exam, the ultrasound. I am now heavily bleeding. I wasn't before. It was cramping. No spotting associated with that cramping. But then after that exam, I was in a whole lot more pain, and I was bleeding pretty heavy. And so I kind of gather my thoughts as best I can because I am upset. I'm physically upset. You can see it. You can hear it. I mean, I can't be consoled at this point because I knew what was happening again. And so we go back into our regular room, and the doctor comes in and says, yes, this is more than likely a miscarriage again. The gestational sac that was present has now started to deflate, and you're probably passing everything right now. And I was. And what really is disheartening about that, and what I'd even like to see a change in, I guess, and maybe it's just something locally, maybe there are clinics like this, but when you're in your regular, clinic, your physician's office, whatever, and you're just being seen, and something like that happens, and you have to just kind of wiggle your way back through the general public, everyone who's waiting, pregnant women, women who are just having their yearly exam. Like, I can't gather, I can't put myself back together right then, and I have to leave, and there's only one exit, and it's really hard, and it is embarrassing. I mean, I was embarrassed. I couldn't stop crying. I was probably loud too. I was very shook, just to put it lightly, like. But then, I leave, and she just tracks my labs. I go back in maybe a couple more times, and everything just resets itself like it was normal. And now it definitely does not feel normal. Not only had it been 4 years since I even got a positive pregnancy test, when I was having normal cycles, when everything indicated that I was ovulating. I had forced medication, trigger shots. I had done all these things. 4 years had passed and I never had a positive pregnancy test. And then I get pregnant and the same thing happens again. This time, this piercing, horrible pain. Something just didn't add up. So I was left with a whole lot more questions after this loss. And again, I thought that would have been it, and it wasn't. And it definitely wasn't even after that. So we were questioning a lot of things and felt like we needed more answers. Like, those numbers were really high, the 521. What happened? Why the piercing pain? Why to see a gestational sac and no baby and already passing? So for the next chapter, I'm going to explain what happened 3 months following that second loss, and just the whirlwind of emotions and questions just kind of spiraling. But like and subscribe to the page to hear all these updates and to hopefully catch you up to speed to where we are now in 2022 with our baby journey. Again, if you prefer, you can go to Apple Play and listen as a podcast, or Spotify. But like and subscribe to our baby journey, and I will see you soon.